Hey, I'm golf broadcaster Matt Adams. The updated and expanded second edition of my book, The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments, is now available. Readers can expect to march with Arnie's Army at the 1960 U.S. Open, relive Jack Nicklaus's remarkable 1986 Masters win, and be amazed by the Tiger Slam. The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments. Pick it up where fine books are sold, including BarnesandNoble.com and Amazon.com.
This day in sports history. And welcome back to This Dish, a member of the Sports History Podcast Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sports. Learn more and find additional podcasts at sportshistorynetwork.com. It's June 17th, and on this day in 2002, if you are a U.S. soccer fan, all you need to hear is Cero to know what happened. It was a round of 16 match in the 2002 World Cup played that year in South Korea. The U.S. men's national team had advanced to the knockout stage after a stunning win over Portugal, a tie with the host country South Korea, and a loss to Poland. In their round of 16 match, they were paired up with their biggest rival, Mexico, on the biggest stage. Mexico had won their group with 2 wins and a draw. As the Americans got off the bus and walked into the stadium on this day, a few of the Mexican players were huddled together, and as they peered at the U.S. squad walking in, they began to laugh. Now, the Americans didn't know what was so funny or what they had been discussing, but it didn't matter. They saw that as a lack of respect and arrogance on the part of the Mexican players. Captain Claudio Reyna remembers thinking at that point, we would get chances against Mexico. Sure, they were a strong team, they had just won their group, but we knew them inside and out and felt that we could exploit them if we attacked. It didn't take long after kickoff to prove just how right that Reyna had been. In the 8th minute, the U.S. caught the Mexican team sleeping a bit, taking a quick free kick that resulted in Reyna attacking down the right side, turning it to the middle to Josh Wolf, who feathered a touch to Brian McBride all alone in the 18. His right foot rifle shot found the back of the net, and the U.S. led 1-0. The goal was a lightning bolt, providing energy for the U.S. and a stunning shock to the Mexican team. Reyna caused so many problems that the Mexican gaffer made his first substitution just 30 minutes into the game. The Mexican team kept the pressure on, though, forcing goalie Brad Friedel to make some tense saves. In the second half, the U.S. appeared to get away with a handball in the box when John O'Brien defended a corner. In today's VAR world, that results in a PK chance for Mexico. But in 2002, VAR didn't exist, and the referee didn't see it. So they played on into the 65th minute. And then this happened.
Here's O'Brien. Good ball. Perfectly into the path of Eddie Lewis on the charge. And Landon Donovan's in the middle to score the second goal for the USA. And double their lead with 20 minutes of the second half played. Huge goal.
It was indeed a huge goal, a perfectly placed cross to Landon Donovan, who hit the running header into the back of the net. Still a lot of time left, but Mexico was now reeling. And then they lost their composure. A straight red card was handed out to Mexico's Rafael Marquez after spiking Kobe Jones in the side with a karate kick. Friedel continued repelling shots, and the U.S. was able to run out the clock to win 2-0. It was the first clean sheet for the U.S. in a World Cup match since their equally stunning 1-0 win over England in 1950. In 1994, it was Game 5 of the NBA Finals between the Houston Rockets and the New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden. The series was tied at 2 games apiece. The Knicks had...
went home.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you the special news bulletin. Football great Orenthal James Simpson is being pursued by a line of Los Angeles police vehicles. The chase is rolling slowly down the I-5 with Mr. Simpson riding as a passenger in a white Ford Bronco driven by his former Buffalo Bills teammate Al Cowlings. Earlier this afternoon, Simpson was charged with murder in the deaths of ex-wife Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ronald Goldman. Simpson was scheduled to turn himself in at the Los Angeles Police Department this afternoon, but instead is now being pursued by the LAPD. The entire nation is enthralled. People have parked on the side of the highway, cheering on the man known as OJ. Millions on television are tuned in to watch this 60 miles long journey along the Santa Ana Freeway, Artesia Freeway, and the San Diego Freeway. The chase will eventually end in front of Simpson's Brentwood home just before 8 o'clock, when Simpson will surrender to the police and put in motion the trial of the century. We now return you to your regularly scheduled program. The Knicks won 91-84 behind Patrick Ewing's 25 points and 12 rebounds, and giving them a 3-2 lead in the series. Interesting fact, this game was actually interrupted by the OJ Simpson Bronco chase. 95 million people across the country were mesmerized watching the low-speed chase. NBC was broadcasting the game that night, and the Knicks and Rockets fans had to watch the game in split screen, with the Bronco chase with Tom Brokaw providing commentary of what was happening in LA instead of Bob Costas with the action from New York. On this day in 1976, the NBA and ABA agreed to a merger, or as former ABA legal counsel Mike Goldberg put it, this wasn't a merger. The NBA never called it a merger. They called it an expansion. Goldberg also said that the 4 teams from the ABA that were swallowed up by the NBA, in essence, bought their way into the league. When it came down to this point, fatigue had set in. The remaining ABA owners were close to bankruptcy. The amount of time, energy, and money that it took to keep the ABA afloat for its 9 years of existence was exhausting. And as Goldberg is quoted in Terry Pluto's fantastic book on the ABA titled Loose Balls, the ABA simply ran out of gas. The NBA, too, had been fatigued by the process. With players going directly to the ABA or making the jump from the NBA, it was straining team payrolls to keep guys around and attract others to come in. David Thompson's move from the NBA's Atlanta Hawks to the ABA's Denver Nuggets was a driving force behind the merger. At the end of its run, the ABA had 6 active franchises, and they pushed for all 6 to be included. But the NBA did not want the St. Louis or the Kentucky franchises and would only accept 4: the Denver Nuggets, the Indiana Pacers, the San Antonio Spurs, and the New York Nets. Each of those 4 had to pay $4.5 million over a 6-year period to join the NBA. The Nets had to pay extra to the New York Knicks for violation of territorial rights. And one more fact from the negotiations, and this is absolutely fascinating to me, but listen to this. St. Louis actually came out the best of any of the teams, or at least the owners did. In exchange for the Spirits not pressing to go to the NBA, they received a settlement that paid them 2% of all television rights in perpetuity. Before taking a lump sum buyout of $500 million in 2014, brothers Ozzie and Daniel Silna were getting close to $15 million a year from a deal that they signed in 1976. In 1973, it was Johnny Miller firing what is believed by many to be the greatest round of golf in major tournament history, at least until Tiger Woods came along. This was the final round of the U.S. Open played at Oakmont Country Club in Pennsylvania. Miller started the day 6 shots behind the leaders. He wasn't on anybody's radar when he teed off, but he soon showed up on it. He birdied the first 4 holes and then birdied 9, 11, 12, and 13. He then rode calm waters to the end, making pars from 14 onward to record the lowest ever round at a U.S. Open with a 63. His hard charge up the leaderboard won the tournament by 1 shot over John Schlee. Miller's 63 was equaled several times over the years, but it wasn't until last year's U.S. Open when Rory McIlroy and Xander Schauffele bettered it by each shooting 62. In 1962, Jack Nicklaus won the U.S. Open to notch his first PGA Tour win and his first major golf title. Oakmont Country Club also played host to the 62 Open, and this was a Sunday 18-hole playoff between Nicklaus and his friend and rival, Arnold Palmer. Palmer from nearby Latrobe was the hometown favorite, and he had an army of followers. He had led after the second and third rounds, but he faltered a little bit in the final 9 to open the door for Nicklaus to make a charge. Both golfers missed birdie putts at 18 the day before to set up the playoff on this day. Through the first 6 holes, Nicklaus had a 4-shot lead, but Palmer chipped away at the advantage over the next 6 holes. When Palmer chipped in for birdie at the 12th, the lead was down to 1. But Arnie had problems with the short stick in the final 6. A 3-putt bogey on 13 hurt him, and he ended up shooting a 74 to Nicklaus's 71. An interesting thing happened on the 18th, though. After Palmer holed out, he picked up Nicklaus's ball as an act of concession, like you would do in match play. But this was stroke play, so USGA officials intervened. They told Jack he needed to place his ball back and putt it out. He did. It was the first of what would become 18 major victories over the next 24 years for Nicklaus. Oakmont was also the host of the 1994 U.S. Open, and on this day, Arnold Palmer played his final round at the Open. Not only was Oakmont the site of Palmer's battle with Nicklaus in '62, but it was also the course that Palmer made his Open debut on in 1953. It was a special place for him. The 64-year-old Palmer shot 81 on this day and missed the cut at 16 over. After his round, he met with the media, but he was overcome with emotion after a few minutes and he could not regain his composure to continue. He cut the press conference short and walked off the platform to a standing ovation from the press corps. Time now for today's non-sports fun fact. Quick, name the world's largest tire producer. I'll give you a moment to ponder that and run down all the tire companies you know, and I'm going to guess that you still don't know. The world's largest tire producer is Lego, producing about 320 million little tires a year. That's all for today. I'll have more tomorrow on This Dish. This Day in Sports History is a member of the Sports History Podcast Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sports. Learn more and find additional podcasts at sportshistorynetwork.com. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.